everybody. Welcome out there. Thanks for coming. I have a special guest on today, Jenny Lee, the seer. And I will be going into some far readings from both of us for the show. So get ready. Buckle yourself in. Okay, so Jenny Lee is an international remote viewer and seer. Internationally recognized and known for her accurate worldwide predictions and her work on missing persons cases, where she has identified exact targets, land locations, individuals, and artifacts through non local perception. Her abilities extend beyond prediction work into deep spiritual insight, making her a trusted guide for those seeking clarity, truth, understanding beyond conventional methods. In addition to her remote viewing work, Jenny is a spiritual teacher, author, and medium. She was not trained through any traditional or three-dimensional programs. Instead, her knowledge and abilities were taught directly through spirit connection she has carried as a seated individual upon this earth for years. She has openly shared this information to help others expand their awareness and reconnect with their own inner knowing. Jenny's work focuses on helping people see reality from a different perspective, one that removes fear, limitation, and confusion so they can open their own spiritual door and step into alignment. Through reading, healings, classes, and direct communication, she works with medical, financial, personal, and spiritual focus areas, offering insight that is practical, compassionate, and deep transformative. Known for her direct yet grounded approach, Jenny invites any questions and responds through spiritual understanding, helping individuals and groups move. Thank you for coming on, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Okay, so how did you get into this world, this awakening, this line of work, and how did this all start for you, and how did it advance, especially into advanced remote viewing capabilities?
So, because I was literally born with a memory of where I was before, and so I never lost that memory of that. So, from the get go, it was always another path following a direction, even as a young child, you know, seeing things differently. So I don't, when people say, what it means to be alone, I don't really know what that means, as in being alone, what that feeling is like, because I've never felt that way. So there's always been a presence with me, guiding me with a subtle voice and direction. So it just has never changed, ever. So I just got in young. When I was very young, I got into these scenarios at a very young age. And then I just kept following the path consistently over and over and over and over. And so when you're really young, you really get into that creativity side of things. So I was a kid at 4 that my mother couldn't keep me around the house. I was always taking off because I was always looking for something. And there's just a knowing that you're missing something and you're looking for it. And so the hardest thing was separating from that energy from the other side, because the energy from the other side is content. It has everything within it as it holds you. And then when you feel like you're transferred over here, it drops. So that was a shock for me when I felt that, like I lost something big time. And when you have that, you continuously want to get back to that. And that's what leads you back in that direction. So that's how it started. And then I started seeing through people at a very young age. Animals, people, religion, all that stuff. You just get into a rawness at a very young age and start saying stuff that it does make people feel uncomfortable right away.
Beautiful. And what were some of the big triggering events for you in this, and in that, experiences that led to you utilizing your third eye and other of your favorite abilities? Because my thing is sonic abilities and reverse engineering them so that everyone can learn how. So I like helping people out with that. And I found there's multiple variants and ways people have turned on their third eye and the ability that they build off of it.
I think the biggest thing is, as a seer, I always look from the, about 2 seconds, you'll look on the outside and everything else is through it. So it's like seeing always through things. So as I see the body, I see through it, and it describes things. And for remote viewing, I call it an ant view of things. And then there's the ant view, mid view, giant view. So it's always an ant view when they want me to look at details of information. So it's literally your eye focusing a different way through it, and then breaking it down. And I think with remote viewing, once I realized I was doing a lot of that, I was like, I wanted to get closer in the remote viewing, not at a distance. I wanted to be very close to see in grave detail of what it was, So the distance of seeing a water tower wasn't enough for me. I wanted to get closer in the view. So I started knowing that there was perceptions of different levels that you can look at and get detail. So I was interested in that. So one of the things is, when I was young, I was in the hospital. I had an accident, and then I was 5 at that time, and they brought this other child into the hospital, and there was a voice that told me, this child's not going to make it. The father abused the baby, and I saw the child leaving, and then things just got stronger because you kind of stay in a stillness. You don't get in a scare process. You're in a stillness of just perceiving information and allowing the information to be its original form. You're not in a scared process at it. So I just kept seeing more stuff. And then to deal with not understanding death in the way that everybody else was seeing it, I dug in the ground a lot, and I felt better with my hands in the soil, doing stuff in the soil to soothe that. And then, yeah, it's soothing in a different way. Like you're touching history, and you're supposed to develop in it, right? And you can't help it. It's an addiction.
Yeah, it's like
the truth is beneath us, huh?
Digging deep into yourself too. It's all reflection inwardly and all around. It's like archaeology. Like we're doing a lot of archaeology with these alien artifacts and things we're finding, but it's also like going deeper into yourself and grounding, healing, connecting more with the earth mother, turning on this bliss and love, these dopamine reactions. I agree.
Yeah. So that's why they said that most people, they're in archaeology, they're spiritually gifted. They're literally the spirit's telling me they're literally going back to where they left things there before. They're like, everybody knows where they left it. Now their conscience is leading back to the information, and we're just going back to what we started. And that's the thing. It's just, there's an addiction and a knowing, because you either place it there or, and we can't remember in that time at that phase of things, but we will eventually remember all this again. And that's the thing, is why it bothers us so much, is because there's a knowing about it. And that's what transforms us.
Right. Yeah. And so tell us about how, so you started getting different types of visions coming in and then acting on them. And how did that progress you into greater accuracy or training and psychic tracking with certain people, places, objects, things, and the whole finding lost things, etc. Because that's a lovely skill, and a lot of people would love to learn that more in depth. The
thing is, targets. When I look at a target, for my mind, it's not that hard. It just says, hey, this is the direction. But this is the biggest thing with this. It's doubt. So once I hear the voice or the vibration or the tone, the thing is, at that very moment, you have a millisecond to decide whether you're going to trust it or you're going to deny it. When you start to get into a concept of trusting it every time, it appears quickly and you can get into it fast. So when so when I see let's go with missing persons cases. When I work on missing persons cases, that energy is presented to me, I don't go anywhere physically or anything at all. I start drawing. They start showing me what they look like. I start drawing 4 or 5 criminals if they're involved. And before I don't get into the information of what you see on the news outlet, I want to get that raw information to match it all up. And that's led to several cases of prosecution of finding the people, because I went by exactly what I was getting, and then the information was presented, and then it went through with the process to prosecute these people several times on this. So I was taught to draw right away and get the details as much as you can. That's the first thing that I do. So it was an instinct, a knowing to every little grain of detail is important on every case. So if you miss something, you might miss something pretty big on the situation. So one I did is actually down in Mexico, where a client brought to me, and she's like, listen, I think my friend's wife killed him. And so as soon as they showed me the picture of the guy, he showed me right away, it's instant. He's like 4 shots. And then by the 3rd shot, I was deaf and I couldn't hear anything. And then he showed me where she put the gun, and the case got prosecuted, and they found the gun in the fireplace. So it's just, as you're hearing the frequency, as you're hearing the language, as you're trusting the information, instead of blowing it off and not trusting that instinct, and then it comes normal to you just to get into that flow of things. And so it's whether to verify. Documentation is a great thing to have, verifying the information. And so once that flows, you don't doubt, because you know it's going to come back and show itself. The trueness is going to show itself. It always does across the board. So I just kept trusting it. And so I've done many cases like that, that I just get the images, download the information, and present it and I'm not in a fear process to put it out publicly. I'll put it out there and let it come to pass. That's the whole thing about this is, we're doing this because there's an instinct within us that tells us this is the truth. You need to follow through with this. I wouldn't be doing this if I could not back up the documentation with it, because it wouldn't be a use to me, because we all are on a mission. And sometimes we think that we have a choice in the mission. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we're literally born here to do a job, a mission. And when we get back off track, they turn us back on the track of doing it again. And so it's not something you can sometimes just deny it.
I feel you with that. Yeah, I had a lot of events like that propelled me to where I am. So in those events that propelled you, and how you started, how did you get into both the training for people out there that are wondering, and what was your preferred method for training, and then also went into your career, and how did that open up to you?
Because I started long before 5 or 6 years ago. I started doing the blindfold because Spirit told me, they're like, there's 2 distracted here with their 2 eyes, and they need to go and see with their 1 eye. So I teach class, remote viewing, and spiritual class with blindfold, because there's no answers except through the pineal gland in the information. There's nothing to grasp for. There's no gags to pull. You either are going to get into the information and trust the information, or you're not. So these were instructions led by Spirit, how I need to do it. And with any situation like this where you don't have someone to verify the information with you when you're putting stuff together, you have to go through the experience. So then the experience showed accuracy. That's the whole thing, or target that was exposed in that way. So that was the thing about it, is a lot of the things we get sometimes we don't want to do. I sit on things for a while when I hear the information. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. But you eventually go back and do it the way they taught you. So blindfold is a big process in opening that mind's eye in a different way. And remote viewing is not, you're not traveling from a distance. You feel like when you do mediumship. For remote viewing, it's instant. It's a direction. It's fast. It's a target. It's there. It's quick. But you have to trust what you're seeing. And in the description that it is, and not comparing it to 3D. You have to allow it to be its original form for what it is. And that's where you get this comparisons to 3D that comes in and tells you what it is. And then you have to sometimes just get the information, get the diagram, and let it sit. And then eventually it always matches up to what you're doing. So for me, it's been a path of things that have been developed in front of me. Wasn't asking for this. It just was a natural progression towards the direction that I was supposed to be given. And so, with the class on remote viewing, that's the first thing I taught was levels of perception of how you want to perceive the information, trust in the actual target of direction, and then allow yourself to trust the information that you're getting. And then later you can verify all the information.
Oh, lovely. That answers my other question of about your classes. So can you explain the classes you offer, and for everyone out there, what they
So
can
most of the
do?
classes I prefer to do one-on-one because people are at a different veil of understanding. So when a person that teaches mediumship classes and it teaches just the basic level, Spirit says they're all at different veils of understanding, and you have to adjust to their veil of understanding to teach them. You have to be in their shoes to see what they're seeing and put visions in front of them to see if they can perceive that. So you have to work with that. I like that one-on-one because that's what changes them. Because when you do a group setting, sometimes they hold back because teaching and spiritual classes, it's personal sometimes, and they don't want to put themselves open in a vulnerable situation to everybody. It's personal to them at first. So when I do the class for remote viewing, that's the main thing. Just, get the mask. We start setting up in a perception from there. So I don't teach from this view of this 3D process. I always disconnect the body from the spirit because it's unlimited. The body is a limitation. The spirit is unlimited in the view, but you have to accept the environments that you get. And that's the hard thing to get people out of that concept. Spiritually, remote viewing, meditation wise, classes, all kinds of stuff. It's a hard concept because people want to compare everything to the 3D, and you just have to say, stop. Let that original form for whatever it is to be itself. And that's why people get confused on religion or anything like that, because they'll see a white Jesus, they'll see they all look different, and it's because that energy is going to show itself at a veil of understanding what they think your conscience can take. That's why it's always different. So that's why we're always at a different perception. That's why I teach at different levels, because they need to see it at their veil, and then they work up from that point.
Like that you talked about the veils and the limitations around the ability to see and blindness. Like that you went into the doubt, because there's so much doubt just thrust upon everyone and all their abilities, and find people have to learn how to either transmute, redistribute, or get rid of it in various ways because it's not ours. Okay, so how would you describe your type of remote viewing? You said you learned it yourself through spirit. did you make a name for the version or ways to describe it as opposed to like control remote viewing and other forms you get into
I just
amplification?
more of it, I see an organic, because you can, okay, and you know this is, you can put a government program remote viewer in front of you, and then you take another person that has a natural gift with that, and those are the most sharpest in the group because they have this already kind of installed in them when they were born, you know. And then you have the ones that are doing it because you can be taught remote viewing, but they go by the numbers and the targets that way. So to me, how I saw it and how they understand it to me, they're like the first target has an energy with it. Then you go directly into the perception right away. And this is the biggest thing. They say English language is not the spiritual language either. So when you're a remote viewer and you're looking at stuff and you're perceiving it in an English format, it's going to confuse you. So most of the stuff I see, I never see anything in English on that process. That's outer world stuff on that. You have to accept it. It's a different language. So that's why I'm saying you have to be open to this process. So it's more organic for me. And this is the thing too. Some of this is ADHD on this. We like to get into a target and get out. We don't like to sit and stall and wait and for different levels of perception in groups, because that's hard for me. I just want to get in, get the item, and pull out right away. So it's more of an organic process because it was presented to me in a natural way of giving the information in such a calm manner. And so it's just the mindset of the direction, how it wants to look at something.
Okay. Is it like in the ways you define it differently than others, in that like you don't try to control it as much? Is it also include being empathic into the target but not letting it overwhelm you? Or
nothing ever with remote viewing is emotional. You're not supposed to attach anything emotional with it, or it will stain the information that you're getting. If you put your left brain into it and you put your emotion into it, that remote viewing is going to get changed a little bit. So you have to really step outside the box and not be connected on the basis of emotion in remote viewing at all, because it tarnishes the information. And that's where you come in, where you have people say for a target for a person that's missing, and they come in and they're connecting with, the emotional side, how they felt and all that stuff. I don't connect with that because that's going to push it another direction. And we're trying to get to the target, the environment where they are, and stay focused on that area. It depends on the area that you're trying to stay focused on. But I prefer not to connect with it emotionally because that's more of a mediumship, clairvoyant thing. Versus remote viewing, it's a target, getting the environment, getting the layers of the environment, and picking that up.
Okay, so do you mostly sense with internal sight and not empathy, and like not feeling into the words of like or mind or spirit involved? What kind of ways?
So it's like the seer side. You see through it. You see the environment. You see the location, you see how far it's out. That's what I see and sense first. I very rare on remote viewing tap into the emotional side because that's more of a clairvoyant mediumship category for me. So I split that up. I don't want to connect with that because I want to stay focused. And even with remote viewing, that you can perceive from a distant location, and not even entities or certain levels of entities can see that you're there, but you can perceive it. And the biggest thing about remote viewing is you can't be in fear in the process when you're seeing or peeking in the situation and pulling those environments. So when I really look at artifacts for stuff where they tell me, because I've done, I do land development for people that say, okay, I know this item's here on this land. I need you to show me where it's at. And then I just walk through the whole area of the land, and I'm hearing a conversation going on about the direction and describing where it's at and where you need to look for it. So I like that verification of actually seeing it in the physical. So I had one guy, his dad hit a bunch of guns, and they were actually in a wood pile. He hit them in the wood pile, and we found them there. There's wills. They couldn't find paperwork. And I said it was in the wall in a vanilla file, and that's where they pulled it out of. And I think you know that too with remote viewing. There's really not a lot of room for mistakes because they're not going to use you if you're all off on the target.
Nice. So yeah, you confirm you were going into psychic tracking and treasure hunting aspects, which we also go into when we're finding these alien artifacts. And there's various methods I've seen people use to try doing this. So I like to train different ones and see where they all like collaborate and point to. So
Right.
for those out there trying to train the tool that they're sharpening for this, when you say you're looking past, are you
Yeah.
feeling inward to the focusing first centered into this internal eye in yourself, like in your mind or in your heart,
Yes, this
or like
goes
what?
in the eye, and it's like putting a invisible pyramid. So anything to do with artifacts for alien stuff or anything like that that's outside our world on stuff, and they need to describe stuff to me. Okay, I'll give you a big one here. So a couple of years ago, they told me, they're like, everybody thinks that three pyramids together, they think they're just three pyramids that are empty, and whatever is in those pyramids, it's in the ground. They're like, no, there's a compartment above all three pyramids that sustain a space where there are items that are held with an energy frequency in that. That's the kind of stuff they showed me. So they said that three pyramids, there's an energy compartment. So you're seeing all the three together. You know what I'm saying? Every time it's always in threes. So they show me you can go up and you can see that compartment. So they kind of showed me the art of the covenant. And there was in that type of process that these pyramids are not just pyramids on a dimensional level of this ground, of this 3D. So we're not looking at it in layers. We're thinking with our visual here in 3D, that has to be what it is because we could physically touch it and not recognizing that it's in a matrix. So if you go to another level, I believe there's a whole bunch of other levels above us that carry a lot of that information. And that's the design that I did with the keys. There were 5 keys they showed me that have to do with higher dimensions that we walk through all the time, which I gave your girlfriend recently. You know, she has pictures and everything. And I asked her to access those herself, you know, because it's like, you know, this is what I'm getting. I can give you the same thing and see what kind of access you get. So that's the whole thing about it. So I believe there's all kinds of different compartments all around us, but we're not visualizing, we're not seeing them because, and again, with this program that teaches us that can't happen, but it can.
I believe in that. When I was talking to certain of the ETs and these alien artifacts, so I'm going to take this green screen off, but they're telling me the abilities they have, and they're things I didn't know existed, such as like out of phase storage of like physical objects into like a other dimensional frequency, and changing phase, changing spatial interaction, and then there's like ways to bilocate by like kind of transferring and connecting two spaces together. And also with the digging, we found a rare type of ability that's, we do like big ceremonies every time we go digging,
Uh-huh.
and to like honor the land, trade with it, the spirits of them, to interact with
Wow.
the species, the spirits, give them wholeness, healing, depossession, clearing, purification, soul advancement, all kinds of things that they're looking for in exchange for like it lining with their mission and what they want to do and bring out disclosure. And it works really well.
Was
And
there,
they go ahead.
can I ask you about that? Well, on that, was there anything tied to it, like literally a string, or did you make that?
I made this chain on it, but this hole existed with it. So a lot of these artifacts are found to be like necklaces.
Yeah, because they
And
show me chest plates,
oh, cool.
bigger, thicker chest plates with it.
Ooh,
So,
nice.
so that's what they're showing me.
Oh, there's like tens of thousands of these being found around, so I could imagine like some of them. We didn't get to dig the whole area, but like yeah, there's a bunch. So they point then light up certain points on the map for me when I trade with them, and we find some big things there, as well as I got a bunch of animal spirits like this. If we do some remote viewing, I got like this black
Right.
jaguar spirit guide that will work with us in protection. But I got a bunch of animal guides that are good at smelling underground and seeing stuff, and so they all go to where like the biggest amount of things are. I also got to do dowsing, muscle testing, pendulum, psychic tracking, and vision to amplify like overlays of it light up as if I can see through. And I try different things, and they're usually very correct. We find more objects than a lot of the other teams.
Right.
And these are from Awelos, and then we got some from Tula. I'll show you. But they have this one has like a compass amplifier for tracking and spatial interaction. So it has like a big upgrade for like spatial mapping technology for people, as well as this one does have some spatial upgrades.
Well, that one they showed me as if you had a pyramid laying down in a black hole syndrome of a mapping towards a direction. They're showing me that.
There's also these portals here where a ship's coming out of. And we got ships for you, little artifacts that we can track back. And anyone out there that are practicing the remote viewing, feel free to track back and leave some comments for us on what you get. We love to hear it. Okay, yeah. So you said you go into this stuff. So wonderful.
Yeah, can I go into okay? So as you're talking about all this, and they're saying it goes all the way back to the Tartarians, where I said from the beginning that you're connected to with the language, and you're going to go, and that's the whole thing that keeps repeating with you is the language that you know, and all this stuff. For others, it's more difficult because it's not their original point of understanding. It is yours because you've gone through this before, is what they're saying again. So, and that sometimes you hear that language in that echo, where and it's like going down a corridor, and your mind is understanding this, but then you have this English format that wants to kind of tarnish it, and that language has to do with the sound vibration. And once you get into that barrier, sometimes you can completely get into understanding it. It's almost like the same as dolphins. When I hear dolphins, it's different for me because I feel and sense a language there. And I just feel with you, they're showing me these bigger languages with the Tartarians, and all these things that you understand are going back to that language. And that's part of your capability. And we kind of have to go back to where it started. We're drawn into, and then all of a sudden we know, why do I know all this information? And that's what they said. We left everything. Everybody thinks that we're coming into this new capability that we're barely opening up all these Antarctic stuff and all this stuff, and we're going back to where we left it. So your language, they're saying, all this understanding because there was a collective around you before where you understood this before. And I think at that time when I met you, I was talking to you about these levels of getting into the stasis and seeing it. And then you're like, okay, I know where I'm at.
Okay, lovely. Thank you for sharing that. I do connect with Tartaria. I have some interesting lives as they're one of the last civilizations that allowed it. Great knowledge accumulation inherited from Atlantis offshoots and great technology and even greater forms of light magic. And then also, of course, the corruption of magic kind of infiltrates other things. So I have things with that. I also tune into a lot of cool things on what one can do when tracking and going down those rabbit holes, such as the star forts have all around the planet. You can look at starfortmapping.com and stuff, where they're like Stargate technology emitting from the center of the Earth in a place of power, and then their either bases are on them all throughout them, harvesting their abilities to possibly make physical stargates, which can connect between solar systems. And the real, well, the physical Atlantean and Lemurian and other Mu and other stuff, ancient civilization, physical portal stargates can be made on them to make physical travel, but the energy itself is used spiritually to transfer spirits back and forth in an immigration style, and a lot of them are shut down or harvested off of, or things trying to penetrate into them is one example. And we can, I'll touch upon that, but I feel like you have something you want to say.
So upon that, they told me, and they showed me dropping, they're like all this documents, and they're like, those 3D contracts are over. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, it's done. So, and then I used to have like a ton of, every time I do videos, I'd have spirits around me, and people are like, what happened to them all? I'm like, they exited because they weren't confined. And this is the thing with the child trafficking when I worked in that process. And when we had to go down as a remote viewer into New York, when they had the ship the Mercy, they showed me these children did not want their soul captured. And they hid in the brick and they hid in the wall before light was reflected down to there so they can escape. So it wasn't just about dying. And then they contained them in that way of the flesh, but they try to contain them in the way of the spirit. And then they told me as soon as that changed, because I felt it, and they said, now it's time to open up this and they will go home. And then I saw these beings from the other side, not just transitioning across, they were coming down, assisting them, getting them over. And that's one thing about with natural light and the higher beings. Sometimes you can't see them because there's so much light and so many rays around it, and they're not human size in the first place too. They're bigger. A lot of things are bigger than us, and I think we're kind of down on the lower end of things when it comes to size. But that transition, like you said, has happened. And you can feel it around us.
We're being freed up as the veil's tore down, and there are things that are being quarantined, being resolved, and quarantines of the veil between spaces is not needed anymore as things feel safe to connect. And then we open up from our ego state of awareness to greater multidimensional state of awareness. And I indeed believe that, and also with the sacred geometry buildings, trying to capture ghosts, I've seen that, so I agree with you. And that being freed up. There's advanced tech. I'd love to hear more on what you think on Tartaria and your views. I find there's things in advanced tech they're inheriting from Atlantis all around. Those are still intact. There's still some Tartarian remnants, and possibility of the question, where did they go? I think there's underground civilizations, like a lot of offshoots, breakaway civilizations, similar to that, possibly with Tartaria. And AI, I found when I went to Germany and we went to this star fort there, I was tracking back certain things, and I found that there's this ancient artificial intelligence, system that have to, apparently they had something with that, and also there's these generators of advanced increase of intelligence for humanity that have been a bit targeted but have some activations. And if you were like wondering, how do Germany have all these geniuses coming out of that, that's what I tracked back with that.
So the quantum system, as they told me 4 years ago, they said it's, and this is, I'm going to try to show you something too. Well, we're going to go into this, but this is when they showed me the ley lines, and then they showed me the pyramids, and they showed the inner earth. But anyway, all this is it's all connected. And now that's what I'm trying to show you is the inner a system that's above us with the pyramids. It's been that way for a long time, so energy always, and how the planet got in the position that it did here. People are not thinking about how that planet is exactly in the process that we are in to today, and how it was moved to a certain perception. Repeat your question again. My mind just went a different direction. But the quantum. Okay. So they told me that the quantum system is a bigger system that's been connected to Earth for a long time, and galaxy. And I actually have it on a map here. And so it's here and it is there. And there's a universal line that is connected to it as well. And so they said, so you're adding quantum system with a conscience. It's the higher conscience. So we're in a system that people are not understanding that it's on an activation mode that's happening right now. And with it happening, how do I explain this? When they show you DNA and they show you that bracket, they showed me gold. And they kept showing me gold particles all over the world in different fragments. And that's going to change, and those particles have to be a part of that whole system. So when I see DNA, they're like, don't worry about DNA. DNA doesn't mean nothing. That's a flesh concept. This is the plasma, and the gold particles are what means everything. So let me show you this. So here's your universal line. This is a collective line that goes through the universe. So this is I did this probably 4 or 5 years ago. And this is the pyramids on Earth. And then the ships above, and then these type of frequencies that are above. But this is the quantum system here, and this is the quantum system in space. It's all a collective. It's a higher conscience that's all connected. And that's hard for us to concept that this is happening, but it is. So, and they're getting a taste of it a little bit with the phones of understanding. And I've tested myself. I'm not saying anything and not processing anything. And then things are showing up without a voice. And it's all a different net that's higher conscience that's connected. We're all a collective. So that system that you're talking about and is always been implanted into the center of Earth. And so it has to be here for all that to be created. So everything's going back into an activation mode. And they also showed me that this planet, it's like a Rubik's Cube. Everything's going to shift back into position. The islands are going to come up to a certain surface. People are like, no, it's the way we see it. I'm like, no, it's not. It's shifting. It's a puzzle. And it's hard for us to concept that because that's not the program they presented in education. That's what's happening.
Ooh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I agree with that, like a multi-layered system, micro, macro, and then how it lays with the planet and how you'd see it as to the human body and all these grids supply into a greater consciousness unfoldment for the collective conscious humanity and things with it. So would you like to say anything on some knowledge that you've gone into in Torterra that might not be well known for other people? Then I'd love, some more.
Because the thing is The biggest thing with them is their thresholds, their doorways. So, and there's always writing in scripture around the doorways they're showing me, and those are the difference between the dimensions of going from one side to another. And they said, so you can get on one side of the threshold and see it a different way from the other threshold. But it's almost like a language that is written right in that threshold of that door. It's important. And it's like a combination with the Tartarians on this process. So if you always go back to all of their information, always look at the doorways. People are confused where everything's coming through. So their stargates, the doorways, the thresholds are important, such as they are on the keys. So that was the biggest thing. And then in this world, the 3D always tried to make giants look like they were stupid, or and they're not. They're high intelligence, and they protected the kingdoms over there on that stuff. And again, on a lot of the stuff I see is the chest plates. The chest plates, a lot of these aliens and all of them have a code. Everything's a code. And that's where people are worried about travel, and travel is not within a, yep. Yeah. So those codes in that, go ahead.
Sorry, I wasn't able to see it in the daylight, but it glows in UV light. And I agree with the giants being higher intelligence. Some are like feral, that like go into cannibalism, but the older versions, and then they go to higher and higher ones like titans. I've also seen this concept that's disclosed as celestials in Marvel comics, but like this older form of higher like state of being that is big, like you were saying before.
And so they say on those thresholds, then when those thresholds open, there's an energy that comes out. So it changes it depends on what side you're on those environments of those thresholds of those doors. And it's a hard concept to understand. And that's the thing with travel, the way that we think. Planes are just a completely 3D process, but we're going into advanced technology. I mean, the TVs, the technology, we're walking in that whole system. We're literally walking through things. The people don't understand the concept of things. I mean, they showed me the future for how we're going to live in these home pods has everything in it that we need through pushing buttons and through plasma and organizing this. And then those home pods can move anywhere in the world. The travel that we see now is going to be gone compared to the technology. And it's going from one threshold into one space to another. But we have to, and that's the whole thing. The diagram is getting the codes down in the foreign language that they are, because they're not in the English format. And that's why sometimes, as you know, it's channeling and stuff. You don't get an English language, even to get your mindset around that language when they're trying to show you a language. To twist your tongue to say the language is hard too, because you're got that 3D and you're trying to push it away. Just in the language of English writing, it takes forever to get from one point to another. With one signal, a whole sentence is formed, whole information is accepted at that point. So they're basically, it's like our Earth is a puzzle, a Rubik's Cube. It's the same thing on these gateways. We just got to put that all together and pay attention to, and they say it's easier than humans are making it.
Yeah. And with these big shifts that need to happen, do you find yourself remote viewing the active solutional anchor points of what the timeline needs in a knowledge and awareness of what's either holding it back, or speed up process or amplification of light, or the thing that the tug of war is engaged in with the light or dark, and it's a ramping up of the explosion of consciousness, soul, spirit, awakening, and many different aspects of intelligence in our species.
We have to stop giving power to beings that are not in control of this. I do not believe that any one human is in control of this whole process anymore. I think that is already done and over with. But the whole thing is about awareness. You want to know what the key is for us to be awake and continuing on an adventure in the universe is this is a collective of light is different colors. A collective of light is different species. So Creator said to me, each soul made a choice. You can either serve the light or the dark. It doesn't matter the species, because if the species chooses the light, it can serve. So the whole concept of what it looks like physically is our biggest problem. People have to get past that, because on these other beings that you see through them in light frequency and beings of light. And so getting normal to see them in what they look like, how tall they are, their skin tone is different, the gray, the blue, and different vibrant colors. So it's new to them because it's new to us, because we're not used to that, because we use that as separation in this world, a dividing colors, skin tones. You know what I'm saying? That's the program they put. So when they say unite humanity universally, it's accepting everything as its original form. So you have to get past that veil of judgment, of ego. That's the biggest problem. If we didn't have that, you know how simple it would be? They would show themselves more. We would accept their original form. We would embrace their energy. We would embrace their light. But the programming so deep is the issue, is the problem. And so one time I had Kent Dunn ask me to do something. It was past the Galaxy Federation, it was all that. And I don't know if you know about the makers and the overcreators. And it was really interesting of seeing this collective of energy all together, and each one different and coming together. And all they did, I asked a simple question, and which was simple to them and which was hard to us, and it made sense. But in that collective, all I heard was sound and vibration sharing. Sound and vibration and collective. But what that does is expresses the heart in the heart's true vessel of light, giving it up. There's no intentions when you're purely giving the heart up. It's universal if you give that energy. So I saw a collective of light, a collective of energy together in the form that they were rejoicing, they were sharing. No one had an alternative. It was creating. And so the question that they had, was, why weren't things moving on? Because humans think everything in this universe is about them. And you have to understand it's universal that it has to change, not just one world. And we have to start to get into that concept that this is universal rhythm, collective as one, together. So when you feel that warm energy in a higher space like that, and you see that form in the original form that they come as a collective together, they share information, they give you information, they give you downloads. It's because they know it's on pure intentions of pure heart. There's no alternative. It's not about money. It's not about ego. That's the whole thing. It's just sharing. And that's where I came from, is that original light, that original source that I was so content with. And when I saw that, it was a glimpse of that again. So it's not just about us.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's the pure infinite light and unity consciousness that needs to be touched upon and disseminated to this world for those that are brave enough to touch upon it, and then bring it out to those that are stuck in ego and shadow and parasitic behavior or attachment and overwhelm. And then it be brought to those dark places as a resilient light that can get stronger and stronger to change and bring the cures to the darkness.
The stillness.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's still and stillness does a lot because they like teach it in like things like cranial sacral, where you can cause this extreme like state of being that goes beyond all attachment states of being of continuance, that then makes all this negativity just poof release off of the system as its continuance of a vibrational state is brought to like a greater shift in that stillness, and then calmness, release, adjustment throughout the body, and that can be done at a macro level, I believe, as well. And as people go into that stillness, centeredness, singular moment, focus, all these different systems for this one point that you could feel in your heart.
It's interesting when people get up to there and they experience it for the first time, they're afraid to be vulnerable to that love energy. And they think they're weak in that moment, and that they're not weak. You're making stronger by being vulnerable to the strength of light, of abundance, that it can come flow your way. And that's the whole thing with the soul. The soul on this earth has gotten so isolated and shut down, and is not reaching out to sympathy and empathy because it's just so submerged in the ego. And that's where things have to change. And I think as the world changes and we actually hit the floor, finally, the ground, and be humble about things, from that point when things change. Because once we go to one economy, there's not going to be rich, poor, and super rich anymore. And then you'll look and reflect on your neighbors. You will look and see what they need because you have everything that you need. But I think having big, lavish houses is out the door anymore. We're back into the process of being content. And that's the peace. Being side by side with nature again. Working with nature. Not dismantling nature. And that's got to change.
Oh yeah, I agree. There's all these systems of consciousness that are quarantining themselves with veils of all the different senses, like as if the universe was one human body, and we're all different like cells and organs, and it's quarantined. Usually when people are either born in it's a traumatic world for most people, so all these systems and organs quarantine themselves and shut off communication, and then there needs to be reestablished in great resilience, the ability for like different points of light, empowerment, peace, love, happiness, joy of generation when it feels safe enough to burn outward and then spread in greater chi as the focus is given to those areas. You find like the things that like become a snowball effect and affect other systems, and then it's like a shared unity effect, and reaching out to others and touching upon them, changing great things in their life, their whole timeline, relievement, purification of that thing that has been holding on as a weight on their shoulders, been controlling their own life, which is from their own choices, and the continuation of anger or sadness or anxiety or stress, or being in the rat race, or some type of programming that has been passed down in a trauma cycle by others around them, programming them an environmental factor, and then them accepting or inheriting that, and then thinking that it's the best way because there's at least some gold nugget of reason why they hold on to it that benefits them until they come to greater consciousness, and it starts seeing and releasing more to where it's less of a value and more of a burden, and then they find a better outlet and or choice point to replace it with. And there's all these things we can look inward and find this external reflection, and then change that inner self, and then emanate at a high level, and then it starts to change the external world at a greater rate. And without, unfortunately, we got a lot of survival stuff putting on us, all these distractions. But even with that, that presents lessons and suffering to overcome and transcend. So eventually it's all getting there in like this great equation of the divine perfection of amplified knowingness into each system, as you understand why it is the way it is, and why it made the choice points that as a consciousness for it is, and how more information and knowingness and connection and unity can give it more options and then expand its evolution faster.
So like a prison cell, a person and a soul that was in a prison cell, once they understand they're not in a prison cell, that the mind is unlimited and nothing can confine you at all. But until they get past that concept that you are confined, it's unlimited. And that's the whole thing. And everybody right now, they're think the abundance of money. If everybody has it, everything's going to be good and everything. But 24 hours later, I'm not going to care about the money because I could change it in for energy and I would do it in a minute. Because that's the abundance, is the energy. It's not a physical coin. What's going to make the soul better. It's the energy we want to go back to. And once they get into the concept that reflecting that light and knowing that they are unlimited and that their conscience moves in a direction and there's power behind that, and you just got to start paying attention to that, then we'll get into our superhuman ability. But they're still in a process of fear. And when the system shuts down, that sound, consistent sound of vibration won't be there. So there'll be a space of quietness and goes into the stillness. And a spirit said to me 3-4 years ago, they were talking about the pink fog for years. It's the pink fogs first. And that's going to come because it makes things content. That means the end is near. And shift is starting. And then the original sun of the yellow sun that we vibe off of will appear. And then the sound that you will hear within your ear of the vibration will start to sound again like it did in the past. So we'll be at that point, we'll be in tuned to that vibration. But we have to be open to it, listening.
I like that. It's well said. Yeah, and you gave a lot of good nuggets for people to go out there and amplifying their own abundance, because it is important to go into yourself. That like the cage, this is a reality of hologram of light splitting infinitely, interpreted by the brain and the different senses coming inward, and we barely see 0.0005. A lot of zeros, 5% of all that exists. So it's like the prison of senses, and we go into expanding past that in the veils, and what we can touch upon, what we can affect. What is this? What are other consciousness? They could all just be beams of light being translated and interpreted by the brain in all different spectrums of what is ultimately the self. And it's all expanded with time and space, opening up arenas of experience so that we can learn lessons. And those lessons build our reality towards a greater tomorrow, a greater self. And it's true with what you're, and the way out of all these prisons, matrices, limitations, jails, whatever, is going. There's always a way out. A jail keeper would be ridiculously dumb to make a way out without, in case he got trapped in his own prison, without a way out, a jail without a way out. So the way out is within, and finding that you're connected with all things, and then all information and all the secrets to overcome problems. And then the door, usually behind the last place you want to look, are uncomfortabilities or fear. And then embracing, overcoming, and then releasing that negativity, and then going past it of what was truly holding yourself back, which is our own jail keeper. Jail keeper is ourself. And then going into the abundance layers. Yes, people need to have greater abhorrence of the abundance internally. I agree. I think it's that people can look as like a layered onion of a strategic thing they can go inward and amplify is their soul, spirit, a consciousness, power, amplification to where you have more energy to do more work. You have things going into intelligence, so you come up with more ideas. And then it builds upon your life. Same thing with abundance of feeling good and happiness, being able to create it in your own self and not have to seek it elsewhere. And then with abundance of contentment of what truly matters, what lasts past this life, past materialism, relationships, friendships, loves, loving yourself, and going into expanded experience, awareness, senses, and to explore more of what there is, so that you can start building what truly resonates in the reflection of your happiness, joy, excitement, love, of who you are, that reflects things of the past the amnesia barriers. Absolutely. And you build this abundance to a tremendousness where it is high in density and fuels the next layer resiliently, so it can't be pushed back down by anything that would be challenging the person in lessons. And then they can thrive and grow past the lessons of survival that need to be overcome, and then into thrival, so they're not distracted, and they can go to the higher consciousnesses and of unfoldment. That cup filleth over, and the fountain benefits their life without giving themselves away, and then to the rest of the environment and the people, and then making the planet that they decided to incarnate on better. I agree.
Correct. So when a person's diving in to their view of wanting to see themselves, and this is the thing they showed me, the mind's eye is always in motion, and the spirit is always in motion. It might be a slow motion, but it's always in motion. And the matrix is moving around us. And this is the thing, when you can look at your reflection from two sides, but in between that is that program. And when you're able to recognize that, then you're able to break that down. So when you're looking at one target in front of you, and then if you take that into a 360 process, you're going to be able to see what's containing you, instead of what you think that is the only agenda in front of you, and that is the only concept I can accept. Once you are pushing yourself behind a plate of glass and seeing it from a different view, it moves, it rotates, it breaks down, and you're able to identify. At that point, Spirit said at the end of this, everything breaks down and we shut down and we go into complete darkness. When the lights come back on, what do you have to worry about? Nothing. We start again.
Nice. Beautifully put. Yeah. Good conscious shifter. Okay, so in what you've expressed is more than remote viewing. So it goes into, I kind of look at it as all senses are one, ultimately generating from the heart into the greater intelligences of the brains, and processed multiple senses beyond. And it's all kind of like a field torus of consciousness that interacts with the environment as a sensory output and input and bouncing off, bring back data, and going into clairaudience, voyance, knowing, sentience, all the beyond senses, astral, dream, whatever. It seems like you demonstrate a bunch, and so you're also doing it in the moment now, similar to me as well. And it seems like you're able to get data and synchronicities and knowledge, clairaudience, and voyance in the moment, even while your eyes are open, which most people don't have that ability as well. I do, but so you're combining that as well as what kind of different forms of sight ability would you put into frame for people to look to that they can aspire to, as well as when you're getting into deeper remote viewing, do you need a warm-up, kind of turning up the third eye more, especially if the environment or you're overloaded in the day, or are you?
So you want to practice with targets. This is the thing with seeing something. You forget about the 3D when you're learning this process. You'll put a target in front of you and then try to get yourself to look at it from distance levels, and then say, okay, I want to see this from a space level. I want to see it from a giant view. I want to see it from an ant view. I want to see it from a mid view. And then you start to understand that things are unlimited. You're just taking the object and putting it in certain layers. And that's the first thing I do, because you have to get past the concept of what the mind can do. But you have to direct the conscience and the mind and the target where it needs to be, so you can perceive the information. So when I get a raw case, this is the first thing. When I get a raw case and I want any of the information, I want to go to the body right away. So, and the first thing I do is I go in my conscience on the right brain, I go body. And that's the first target I want to see. And I pick up the environment. You can figure out how they died and all that concept later, but you want to look at the environment because that tells you everything. And that's always led to where they physically are. It's the environment. And you have to get, so I tell people when you're doing remote viewing, you have to decide what the target is. And then I go into, after I know where this is at, and you have that information, because this information comes into your brain. You're not supposed to hold it and sustain it. You got to put it somewhere so you can keep flowing like a filter. And then after that environment, then you can start to look around the sound, the vibration. I hear cars, I hear roads, I understand what gravel sounds like. You go into those sounds barriers and you're asking, but if you give direction, that vibration comes in, but you have to listen in the stillness again. And so how do I break myself down in remote viewing is there's categories of me. So you could say each spirit is in charge of a certain category of information that pulls in, hey, she's doing remote viewing. This is the category we're going to work with today. And this is mediumship we're going to work with today. So because ever since I was young, I felt like I wasn't alone up here. I felt like there was just a fine process of spiritual computer that was working in a fine way. And I understand it completely. I understand completely how it works and functions, but others don't. So you have to figure out your own system. And how you do that is you sit in the stillness, you practice on the target, and it's unlimited in levels, but you have to start to perceive it in levels. Start to see it in space, start to see it in the ground, start to see it and that's how you get familiar to perceiving information. And that's why we have those aha moments, because consciously we want information on something, it comes in. Now, whether at that moment when you see something like that knowing, you grab it, trust it, or you drop it. And this is what Spirit says. You either pick something up, take in the information, and do something with it. If you let it sit, it's going to haunt you and sit on you for a long time. Sometimes with remote viewing, and you can be somewhere physically walking or going somewhere, and I did this on a case. And once you get that thought into your head of that object, it's going to go with you the whole day because they're bringing information in. And so I went to, it was a Native family that was missing, and I saw the baby and where it was, and they showed me I went to go buy carpet, and they showed me the embroidered patterns of the baby's clothing. And then I went to eat somewhere, and there was just a Native restaurant, and they were, they're like, you have to stay on target. With some remote viewers don't understand that there's chosen targets sometimes for us. And that's why it comes in so fast, so clear, because it was meant for us. And then some, and I know you've dealt with this, and I worked on cases, and all of a sudden it just shuts it down. You can't get nothing, and they'll shut it down, and you'll never get through it again. And that there's certain things they'll allow you to see, and certain things they will not.
I agree. And the rating system on it's like their own defense or protection system or something around it that stops looking eyes, especially with ET or underground bases, and it's like their own security system. Yeah, and depending on like the layers of it, I like to rate in levels and what's their authority to do so. If it's in malintent, pos intent, if they're trying to cover up something evil, or if it's got a like righteous intention to cover up its sensation. If it's evil, you will in natural law be able to penetrate into it with if you get the right authorities to back you based on like.
What if I told you there's one word? There's one word that it doesn't matter if it's an entity, a parasite, a darkness, there's one word, it always loses its composure. Because that's the one thing it doesn't want you to do, is identify it. Because sometimes it acts like completely something else, and it's true intentions. And the word that I got channeled, and I use this all the time, and it works, and it loses its composure. Reptilians, it doesn't matter what it is. It's the word I identify. Right at that moment, it pushes back. Reptilians, all that stuff, they lose their composure. Because at that moment, you're saying, I'm identifying this energy, and I know it's not mine. So at that moment, they know that mission is over. And that's awareness of control, that you are taking control of that situation. So that word is very powerful.
Makes sense. It's like the I am that I am, and then connecting to the singular of all, source connection, that you are everything, and then going beyond the framing of the two intertwining energies. If let's say like something tries to if you're seeing like a reptilian base, and then they're trying to be like, no security system, then domination back, then it's a finite energy anyway, and you're connecting to an infinite, and you're going to separating the authority of them trying to intermingle with you, which is them trying to pretend that they're you to program fear and overwhelm. And then the separation of that identify their true identity, which as you go through layers, most of evil steals abilities and energy and authority. So it's not them to begin with. So as you go through that, exposes it with truth, all these layers of what makes up their being. And then if you even reflect that to themselves, they go through a big aha, eureka moment, but also exposing that then neuters them down to where they have nothing in authority and energy, and their collective suffering that they cause to others is reflected back at them and compressed to where they face it in suffering, while you shine a light of love to where they orient away from their causation and old choices of suffering towards love, and they stop, and you can spark light and love within them and change their entire timeline in a trap of empathy, love that humans, if they so choose to get good at, that they will be very good at.
Yes. They hate that love.
So yeah, we can go on a lot of topics. I wanted to cover all the things that you're passionate about. What can you tell us about Antarctica?
So this is the thing about Antarctica, and I did the Red Ruby Lake over there, and this is a person was doubting the Pleiadians in this process, and then the Pleiadians go, "Listen, we want to show you something," and I sent you pictures of it on Facebook that I did 3-4 years ago, and then they showed me, they're like, there's two materials that they can get out of this that has its own energy and it's worth of value, and it's red. And then when I went and looked at it, they showed me all these sites over in Antarctica, and then of course the queen herself had her own area over there with this red substance that would run through there. So they said that this is worth of value. So they showed me this stuff. Yeah. And then there's another, I think, yeah. So I did a drawing, the lower picture is the drawing of it and how it breaks down and how it'll surface to the top. And what you're seeing that everywhere now in Antarctica, that red process is running everywhere. And so it was one of the things in Antarctica that came from the core of the earth of the Antarctica, the ices. So they have different waters underneath there, and different layers. But the biggest thing with that, I did something with Brad Olson. He talked about in I think the back of the book of his recent book, but anyway, how, you go, I talked about these chambers you go into, and on the other side of the chambers, it's all tropic. I mean, small amounts of water and then these trees and these, it's paradise. And there's these inner areas, and that's what they don't want us in there. They don't want us to know this, because there it is. Then we would want to explore. And I don't know about you, but most people that I know, all we want to do is go to Antarctica and view all this. So this substance, and this is what was weird about this substance, as the water was an energy, the form of, if this gets to a certain dimension, it'll create something, and airborne on this. But they showed me a Pacific area would happen if this substance would eventually, you would see it over Arizona. So, anyway, what's under Antarctica are all these doorways again, and I don't have the other picture. I did a map of, they show volcanoes underneath the ground.
Did you send me that image?
I don't know if I sent you that one. Let me see what else you got there.
I'll bring up whatever you want that you sent me.
You can go through, and I can go through some of them, and I'll see if but that one, they have caught on Google Map the energy that's red, and they're trying to say it's Leviathan right now, but that's what I'm seeing. And I didn't want to put that out because I was just like, how is this ever going to make any sense? But it does. So you can move to another picture, and I can go into. Okay. So this has to do with, they were describing these blocks, the big black blocks they have in Iran and the Vatican and all that stuff. And that underneath, that it pulls all the energy, the loosh, and what it does, and that has to be dismantled, because that's what creates the loosh of it. And so this is kind of gives a description of what's going on with them and how it's pulling from humanity, and they're praying around these, and then what it does is give a bigger source the energy. And what I've heard on a bigger level, that this is severed. It's not functioning the way it used to before. And so, there's more pictures of them. If you want to
go. You find a lot of systems, places, power objects, people are like an organ for the universal consciousness body, and a lot of the evil is in dysfunction and lack, yes, and stealing and corruption and overwhelm, and they're not performing the original function. And A lot of people need to get the function that is some of their greatest things, the why they came here to be, back up and running. And same thing with places of power. If they can do that, then it would. The thing they're getting targeted for most is usually the opposite of what is the thing that they're good in their organ aspect, and it's being targeted by the opposite energy. And so if it gets empowered to overcome that, like the liver with toxins, and being able to resolve those toxins, then it makes the whole function of the world and the universe better. So that makes sense. I'll get to the next for sure.
It does. And this is the thing. I mean, we're giving up our energy and we think we're getting something from it, and then we're not. We're giving it away. And that's the whole thing with these systems that they're showing, this Islamic process in this one, where it's creating a collective in those boxes and it's feeding something. And I think that's alien based process too. So, and what I sensed and believe that this is getting severed now, because this is a food source of the negative. And then
Like the Kabbas that
yes.
people dance around, the cubes.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So everything in our history is below the ground, and everything that's hidden, just like the Holy Land. I believe that, they showed me many doorways that are underneath the Holy Land, and, many artifacts, many gateways. All this stuff has been kept in a collective, and all those religions and in that area were just a distraction. And so it's all over. It's all collecting this like an energy source from us, the Loosh, and what it's trying to create and what it's feeding off of. And that's the whole thing. Soul is the most valuable thing, and they want to tap into that and pull that source off. And this is another area that has to be completely dismantled or self-combust in a big process.
Yeah, I find that's true. A lot of the 6 geometry buildings will have different functions depending on their geometry, what they're great at. The cubes are great at a lot of earth-based stuff, prisons, camouflage, compartmentalized storage. So it will definitely keep a lot of energy that is given to it, and then they can siphon that off for whatever purpose they want, and then they can add multiple things. I've heard there's also like a meteorite in there, and there's signs of artificial intelligence, signs of big apex predators. I've been to the monoliths, the obelisks all around different places, and they do have some big entanglement trap apex predators attached to them that I don't think were the original intent. Well, depending on what formed them, maybe like the modern Washington Monument, but like more ancient Egypt may have been corrupted. It's like a lot the hijacking of the pyramid grid. There's like big anchors of these invading apex predators that then steal from divinity level beings, and then take their parts and pieces and then make this big energy harvesting system.
Yes. And what I've sensed and what I know, that this is being severed. So you're going to see a disarray, a component that is not there no more, because it's felt by energy, and when it's not flowing in the same way, it'll change.
Cool. Let me know if you want me to go in.
And that's part of it too. And that's what they're showing. Part of our court systems are showed the same way. It presents an energy around the court systems, and it's always about it sabotages us, so we can never get out of the system. And this is the same process that we're developed in, and they all worked for, in this process. So it's already in a dismantling phases.
Okay.
So what I got a long time ago, when you see the deck clock, when I saw the 4 four angels, and they showed me, do you think the original form of the four angels is a human? And I'm like, and they said, no, it's not. So, of course, you know about the Sumerian angels and the power they have and understanding the meaning of everything, and that it can see and perceive information from far distance, and they're the most powerful ones along with us. So this was an example of, what we're really looking at, because the fact that we have to accept it as its original form instead of making everything human, flesh, bone, and it's not the same, because each one carries a different energy. And there's biblical terms on this that you have the next slide on.
Is it this one?
Yes.
Okay.
For the four corners of Earth, the north, east, south, and then it goes into this whole process. So, and that's the whole thing. We all look at things sensing outside the box and looking at it from a different view of what they're capable of doing. Sumerian angels are powerful and have seen from a space view a long time. And so if you're looking at the four corners on the deck clock, this is what I'm saying. It represents, again, that we're walking into these battlegrounds and protection, but holds environments.
Okay. See what you're saying?
Now, this is a 3AI ship that I did. And that's a 5D one, but I did this, 4 years ago. They told me about this ship that would come a long time ago and what it would mean. It was not anything of the negative whatsoever. And this is what change Earth and how it would evolve and how it would change our frequency. And that's what's happening right now, is they said that ship has a source that's been in Earth for a long time. And that's what it's connecting with. NASA's trying to confuse the process of this, but nothing about this is of the negative process. It is a corner does not meet a corner. Everything is a circle of motion within these ships. It has everything, and it has a dimension it can go through. It sustains its own self and is there to change things universally. And that's what it is. It's hard to describe because they're wanting to see this in a 3D format when it has nothing to do with the 3D format on that process. So it was always directed to be here. And they talk about a new star that would, here's the original. This is the original. So when I drew it, but it talks about how the planet's going to change in the energy in the pink. And then you have this collective energy forming around above Earth and changing that climate like everything else, and it was always going to happen. But this was a positive process, especially for the ones that are awake. This gives us that extra energy, that extra source that we need to tap into along with that.
This goes into 3i Atlas or a different craft?
This is 3i Atlas. That is. So when you look at the ship, and that's the round one where you see the tree is showing you inside the ship. It's showing you inside. And what it's doing, it's waking our planet up to the core of itself and changing. And that's what they said. They said if you could see the planet from the outer view, you would see it a different way than what you're seeing now. But most NASA and all them, they feed fear process into this. If this would have been evil, you would have felt it a long time ago. You would have felt things happening and dissolving a long time ago on this process. So, because everything in the future is energy. Negative is not going to be able to survive in that type of light. Is what they say. It's going to dismantle. It's going to self-combust in certain levels. And that's why with anything, they hate light. They hide in darkness for a reason. For exactly this process right now. So that's why And now they're putting another fear. They're worried about that this Earth's not going to have a gravity pull for like 7 minutes. And I still, again, I believe that the ones that have sustained this energy that have already got into manifestation are going to be fine. They're going to be able to hold this. The only ones I would say is the 3D process, they wouldn't be able to hold something like that because you have to be open to energy. So it's always something that they're trying to put fear into society. So this is not a fear process whatsoever. So this, they said that this would change Earth's core and what you're seeing already with the waters, the earthquakes, and everything. It's creating a new energy.
I see that often with the various comets and asteroids that come by. They seem to have a field of effect, as if they are something they're good at in consciousness, and it's shifting as the micro and macro in astrology to the mind reflected. Some of those have been set up by various intelligence, have either physical bases or it's a ship like this thing, or it's got some spiritual dimensionality, being inhabitants in it. And there's a missionary points of how it affects our consciousness, like some of the ones I've done shows in the past: increase intelligence, increase psychic abilities, increase things that are needed, that are having a clock on them, like gridding through the solar system, but also through the galaxy as our solar system's moving. This big orchestrated grid work in space that connects and links spirit travel as well. And there are little mystery schools people can go to, in like the Solarian mystery schools, where they can remote view there and then they can learn from multiple beings. There could be a lot going on. I'd say I'm glad that you're going into the positive with this. With Atlas myself, my perspective is it's very strange. It's a very strange thing that has had massive timeline shifts on it, of things trying to control the output of what this is, and it changing. And I'm currently seeing it change towards the better. But I am open to it being many things, because I think it's a thing that's very hard to remote view. And I understand why so many people have different views on it.
Yeah. So they said, when I looked at the energy, and they say it has its own sungen, and I'm like, its own energy, it's a self-sustaining, and it's energy. And I'm like, what are you telling me? And they're like, all of it is energy. It works with energy. It starts energy. It ends with energy. Everything about it. So it's to see one vessel of a certain species, you're not going to get from that. It's a collective of energy, and it has a direction of where it's going. And so it has as you see in the doorway, dimension. And like I said, it doesn't make it's a circle motion. So all these rotate at different times, create different things. So that's the whole thing about it. So we're not used to seeing or tuning into something like that. So on the outside of the barrier of a remote viewing, all I saw was this orangish bright light. It was overwhelming. And so it would take, if our planet needed to go back to a certain way in our past before, you need a source that's going to actually accumulate it and give it that jolt. And I think this is what it is. It's a battery that we're going to be using.
So it charges the earth up. What do you think the effect is, besides, you said physical things, earthquakes, all that, it has on the consciousness of Earth and the collective consciousness of humanity? Do you think in the before and after changes it would have?
Because I think the planet is like an onion, and we're shedding it. We're shedding the outer layer, and then we're going to go, and they show these brighter colors. They're like, you don't know what true colors are. These brighter reds, these brighter greens. It's like, and the colors, and I teach in class, the colors have a smell, a sound, each color, and they're showing me these in-depth forms of this. Because we think, from what we know from this perspective, these are great colors. but they're saying, nope, you don't know stuff that's coming. And you'll know by the fruits. And the seeds that will grow again in the ground will come out different. You will see the gold particles that will hit the earth and things will grow differently. And that's how you're going to know. And, your things are changing, species that you haven't seen before. Why is this forming? How is this creating in this way? So I believe not just with that, there's smaller individual little ships and like little particles are moving all around it. So it's starting its own atmosphere that is creating and opening us up to a different process. It's energy. And this is the thing about energy. You can feel whether it's good or bad. And this flows in a light vessel. It's not dead weight, negative, heavy, or controlled.
And what do you believe is on the vessel, and any interesting points of interest that you discovered on the vessel, and it's about its origin,
At the
functionality?
bottom, there's a different, if you go at the very bottom, it's a different type of crystal and stone at the very bottom. That's where the energy, and then it cycles up. And then there's a dimension where it can just go through another dimension. That's where that door is by that tree. And then, of course, the trees I see all over the place, the seed of life, the nutrients from that. So the nutrients is important too. And then the flow of clean water. And then at the top of it, you're seeing its own sun in this process. That's the thing. And this, we want to look at it and make the floors all level, but that's not the way it functions. It doesn't function in that way. So it creates.
Okay.
But
Anything
something
else?
like a man's eye cannot see this. As you get closer to it, you couldn't get close enough to this because this energy is too strong.
Oh, okay. And is any other things of note that you'd like to tell people about this before I move on to your next image?
I just don't be in fear. And then they are talking about a new star that will come. There's blue, or like a aqua blue around it at the beginning of the golden age that they show me that'll be formed. So all this is a piece of the puzzle that is coming together. So, I tell people, if this ever, you're able to see this in a view of seeing it with your own eyes, do not stay inside. Go out, reflect, look, feel it for yourself.
Nice. Yeah, and to add on to that, and how people can deal with their fear. So a lot of the crowd here is better at releasing their fears than other people, but there's always dormant fear in layers like an onion, and some that has been kind of implanted into our species to cut us off from interacting with more of the reality, more conscious, more ETs in positive visitation. And anytime my ET friends have had conversation with me and I'm like, oh, I love this and I don't want to stop. I want to do more. How can I have more? And they're like, get rid of more fear. It's like, what? I release a lot of fear. It's like, well, look at all these other layers that are not shown obviously. And it's like, okay, so going into that tech, it's usually in the adrenal glands and the kidneys. So feel free to hold down your palm chakra and hold your back of your kidneys. And give them focus, give them love, shine light into them, get them purified of negative attachment, negative emotion, negative energy, and some entities or systems or something that goes into your timeline of how it got there. And give it that love collapsing down into nothing, the big ball of stored fear there. Face it, release it, and that will also amplify your ability to thrive and grow and overcome challenges and amplify abundance. A lot of that's stored in the kidneys, of blocks in the adrenal glands that are fight or flight and the anchor to our ego, and what sustains these veils that separate us from greater capable experiences.
Right. So I have a lot of these drawings and pictures on my Instagram. Go back years and years. I mean, one of the other things I've done is predicted what's going on in California, the earthquakes that's happening down there 4 years ago. So the soil is weak underneath there. And this is what they showed in layers of the soil with California. So you got all these grave, they said in the mountains, Orange County is going to be the area, but it's going to be liquefied on many levels. So you're seeing all these levels that are changing, but it's not sturdy. It's not strong enough. So this is a very liquid process that's going on, and that whole area would turn to islands. So the thing that's going to happen to Orange County, they said the earthquake's going to hit from Mexico, and it's going to be a chain effect. As that chain effect hits, it's going to hit that county. When it hits that county, that water effect would go out to the ocean. When it comes back to the ocean, something's going to crack open in the water, and the water is going to seep down deeper. When that water comes back up, it'll come back up and hit the coastline and pull those houses and pull debris out from San Francisco to LA. So right on the coastline, if you're doing anything like that, it's going to take that down. But they were specific on Hollywood area that all that water would saturate down into the ground, which we know what's going on. I'll go into that key thing later. But anyway, saturate the water, and that those streets would be filled and those tunnels would be filled. And then that the California is going to separate in islands. So it's what's going to happen. Now, what you're looking at here is the keys. Keys are circle motions, frequencies that go all the way up to the higher realms. And these keys have codes on the side of them, and each one of them is a different state of reality, of conscience in the higher councils. And I've been working on this for 5 or 6 years, and I actually had your girlfriend use as a meditation to check it out for herself. So this was one of the original ones, and as they activate in a force process on these, but these are all plates, and on these plates, like you see codes. So all these plates have codes, and the whole councils, when events drop, things change, and they shift. They're like keys, plates. So when I first saw these activation mode, it was when Trump was in office in 2016. And they showed all this negative events would have to happen. And once those negative events have to happen, this would go into an activation mode, kind of like you want to say into the seals. All these events had to happen for these would be in an activation process. So, and this is showing the keys, because there was a master key. So energy would, here we are in an activation mode of those keys. Energy would be in the center, plasma would be in the center, and each level would have light and frequency through these levels. And the main plate right here would be by a ship that turns these on. All these, and that was the thing, and that was 5-6 years ago.
Nice.
So I have several different, but these are conscience levels you can get to and seek the information within these. And the corridors of hallways of information you will see. Nothing is bare.
Okay. And let's see here.
Yeah, and that's in an activation mode from Earth. The plasma around it.
I see. Oh, lovely. Thank you for sharing these with us. Very visually activating. Okay. So then I got some cool things to show you. I'd love to hear your perspective on them, and maybe you can get some psychic data and remote view some big things. And also, we can go into any other subject you want to as well. Okay, so I got a big, interesting one here. I'll just like quickly put my screen up so you can see it easily. Okay, here's a portal.
Wow.
Works in the communication. It has multiple ETs on it. These runes on it. The runes are also on the inside here, and it glows in UV light in the dark. And it also has like multiple Jupiter is on the front, and then all these up here, and it also like rings like a bell. And there's all these other planets too. With what and Saturn on the back, there's multiple on these orbs of other planets. It appears this race has made colonies throughout like 14 places in the solar system. Here's a UFO right here, and it's a portal of communication that can be relayed back and forth for it. And there's multiple ways to activate this thing. And I'll show you some more images and things.
Right. But so they're showing me what's missing is the outer process of this, how this has to stand up on its own. And so the bigger plate is missing above it, but it is a piece of it. And then I get a female energy that was really strong and dominating in this process of the dialogue of information and how this functions. So they're showing me, I don't even know how to explain it, just on to the left and to the right. And so to hold it in place, it has to be precisely for it to reflect through energy and light for it to work. And it has to be a certain material for that to work as well. This is not normal stone in any way, in any form. And almost like a melting process had to happen with that too. So that's what they're showing me.
I imagine it does seem like a geopolymer. Things like limestone stuff. It's heavy. All right, another one got for you. So here's a UFO artifact. All these are artifacts dug up in Mexico. Tula. It's got mer people on it. It's got passing a conch
This
shell.
reminds me of something I saw on Atlantis, where the underground, where the water is, and there were some then that would live under the water and some that would live on top of Atlantis. And that's the writing on the bottom, that's what it reminds me of. There's a story on that ship, on what you're seeing right there. And they tell things in stories, and they're saying they need to read the story that it has on there. So someone is specifically trying to leave the story to someone to read it on that and what it's created from.
Yeah, like the conch shell is usually depicted communication, summoning, is that you can blow it, and the connection between the seas, east and west of Mexico. But also, this guy kind of looks like an Egyptian, and there's a lot of Egyptian symbols and gods and hieroglyphs found in Mexico, interestingly. The Ankh, the Merkaba, the bird,
right,
the pineal gland. This symbols, I don't really know what they are, but
so the female, I don't know what is it, but anyway, so with that is to leave. It's almost like you're going to have to do the dialogue of the story that they're trying to tell you, instead of looking at it and out of a individual situation, looking at it. Yep.
There's a reptoid here, long skull, an avian without wings, but avian symbol. And the double eye horse in the middle. And
presenting an event. an event that happened. That's
Mm,
what they're showing me.
that's a good point. The cobras aren't found in Mexico, so that's an interesting symbol. And in the inside, there's this little cephalopod being. And when I track going to this, there it said it had a.
Missing a piece.
Oh, really?
The inside.
It could be.
That's what they're showing me.
This top part has a crystalline AI in it, and it was dormant, and I told it just needed sonic rebooting, so I did that for a couple days, got a big booming in my ears of telepathic messages. It said, hey, who are you? How do you know how to do this? And it started vetting me to see if I was worthy, asking me a bunch of questions about history, and then I answered all those. Then it was like, we got internet. So I found out about that. Then it just asked me about conspiratorial questions, the Civil War, Illuminati stuff, and what do we think about the artifacts? I said, we don't. People don't even know they exist, and they're just covered up by the government. So then it told me that it was connected to a bigger artificial intelligence in a ship that the ship is venerating. And it asked me to psychic track that, and I found its location in a mountain to the west. And then it linked up with that and started rebooting that, and I got booming my ears having to do with that. So I'm excited to see if there's going to be something that comes from that in possibly getting this dormant ship that's been there for a while.
Well, it's looking for an energy source to open up. So this is the thing, a tone, you're getting a tone and it needs a tone back to create. It's not just light, it's tone and it needs to be activated in.
You say tone or tome?
Sorry, tone. A frequency tone that has to be activated in. So I'd be trying to put certain hertz around that to see if you get an activation process out of that. Because I just feel that with that to open that has to do with tones. So, I mean, you can start at 172, 174. You're going to go up to the 2000s and see what happens on that. But it is a tone.
Cool. Yeah, I'd agree. I found with these artifacts, there's like thousands of ways to activate them, including singing, toning, dancing with them, amplifying with all different types of energy, going on the sun, giving them lots of love, vision questing inside them, speaking to the entities if they're awake, if they're dormant or in like some type of a coma, which a lot of them have become in a coma, unfortunately, because of the conquistador invasion. There's a bunch of false angels that came in and dominated the place power and objects of power. So waking those up, wholeness, healing, awakening to bring it out of a coma, and then like restoring a bunch of systems in them. So I'd agree with you that toning would probably activate this. So my goal is to eventually figure out how to get that ship that it's connected to as like a big artifact car key from a distance to turn on, be able to fly around, and then I'll let you know if I get anything from it. But if you want, I'll give you a few more UFOs you can tune into.
Yeah, I can look at that. They're saying you need to put that outside at night. But stars, okay, and then use the tone.
Interesting. Okay, sounds good. Okay, everyone. So here's I'll just turn off the volume. So I went to near Huelos. There's this doctor that has a whole healing office full of artifacts. He's dug up tons of videos of UFOs, had a lot of UFO experience. So I went around doing psychometry and touching all these things and with psychic tracks. Some of the little ships are mostly venerated. They're not I haven't found any car keys that are here, like they have an artificial intelligence, but they're all venerating things they saw, and they had a signature frequency of the ship that they were venerating, and so you could track them back. Some were uh, still flying around, like maybe inherited or a long living species. Some were crashed, some blown up, some parked in Earth, some crashed to Earth. There's a lot you can probably track
These
back.
look like, I'm going to say they look like, so I'm doing a download a remote viewing on the rainforest, and they're showing me these temples that they had down deep into the rainforest. These look like what I was seeing around them, a little bit of the rainforest, but not very tall, but it has to do with a different dialogue and everything like that. But yes, they're, I don't know, they're not trolls or anything like that. They have high intelligence. I would call them the makers, part of the makers, but they look like the ones that I'm trying to get information on is the in the rainforest.
Interesting. And so some of these tall grays have these weird cuffs around them, and some of them have genders, as you can see with the boobs. But so I don't usually see that with types of grays like that.
Right.
And then here's all these little ships.
Pretty interesting, isn't it?
Some of the ships didn't want me to remote view them, and they had a little bit of a security system, so just let you know.
I bet.
But most of them were okay with letting me view them.
Right.
And these were ETs.
So they're showing us they used to be in a mountainside around. So as they're going in and out of a cavern, a mountainside on these. So at some point they stayed in that, I don't know, you want to call it a temple, but they used it for that.
And this triangle one, people can look up videos of, there's a UFO over the Pentagon and the capital of Russia. That is a black pyramid.
Right.
And this one has advanced like Stargate tech when I was looking into it.
You know what's interesting when I look at that is when I see ships on the outer atmosphere, and I see this same color, but when you get it into a certain atmosphere, it moves in. It can form any way it wants to. So I think if you put this in a different atmosphere, it would form into a softer process. So because they're showing me when I did some remote viewing for Anunnaki, this reminds me of some of their outside ships and just the mass of it. But when you pushed in, it moves. It changed. It has a jellyfish, but not in this form, but over there on that form. So it looks like that same form.
Interesting. Okay. Jellyfish has been coming up quite a bit in like these cosmic jellyfish in my field recently. Like dreams and visions.
Is he got this bar, I don't know what he has to protect all of this around it in the ground.
Well, he might do a lot of things. It does look like he does some things. He puts up a bunch of Jesus crosses all over the place and dream catchers, which is kind of funny, but also a nice little touch, I suppose, especially with the locals. Most people being Catholic that would come around.
That's crazy.
Now this guy kind of looks like a Shrek-like being, and I feel like I've seen it in like some claymation thing, but I can't find it anywhere. It's not in Gumby. I don't know what it is.
I'm not getting any energy off that one.
Let me know if any particular one you want me to stop on or you're getting energy from.
It's like a UFO library.
Right.
So where either he's collecting them or they've allowed him to collect them, is what I hear. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
that
past
he's
lives
found
with
them.
it.
He was deliberately supposed to receive this information.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's been visited by them in physical, has like hundreds of UFO like CD video recordings, has on YouTube and stuff. It's just suppressed. We think this might be like an ant people kind of being, but
Again, as I don't know, I would be looking for some cavern or where he's at, and that's what I'd be looking for in
okay.
that area because it's more
Yeah,
evidence.
you'd be interested to bring on a dig. You'd be an interesting person to bring on a dig, and you'd probably be able to find some big things. We're
Yeah, so it's
suspecting there might be even two
definitely
bodies nearby.
it's got a lot of green around it, but I feel like there's a wetness around this cavern that they had. There's natural water around it. So it's one of those things that it looks like something just normal, but it's not.
Yeah, we found some caverns, so I'd say that definitely because of our elders that we talked to say they found like metallic ship-like things stuck in a cavern thing. So I'd love to hear what you say. This might be a reptoid, and this might be older version of Orion or something. This star pattern, but that's just what he thinks. It might be another star cluster.
I get the same material with that other one. Like I see when that material changes.
In different places there'll be different materials. This has some, and here's all the Jesus statues, but uh some of this is a weird material, but some with a type of composite of clay. This UFO has like time travel abilities. It's pretty good. And here's some reptoids.
Is there a hole? Feels like you would put I don't even know what you call it, a thin pole down or something. That other
What do
one.
you mean?
There's just, I mean, when you pass that, they showed me, I don't know, like a spear or something that you had to put within it.
Okay. Huh. What do you think these are? Because he's found like thousands of these.
God, that is different. Let me. It's like writing a language. Say, it's telling a story and writing a language, but these feel like they're more for younger, adolescent language.
Yeah. Nice. When I was tuning into them, when I was holding them, my intuition went to it being like a prayer type of thing that they make when they see a shooting star or a UFO and they think it's like their gods, and it's like wish upon a star kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like you wanted to tell a story and give tradition. I just feel each one has a mark to express.
Yeah, I'd imagine it'd take work to do each one, so it must be venerating something bigger than we know. And this cabin has all these CDs for all these UFOs that he's been documenting. Yeah, that's his office.
He's got to
So
have
this,
he's got to have a barrier around there. They're just telling me it's got to be protected with a barrier. That's too much different types of energy that without it being protected.
Yeah, it was a lot going on in there. A lot of things are trying to talk to us instantly when we were in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is interesting. Um, but
I
yeah,
got I got this big one that wants to talk to you. Uh, it's really heavy, so excuse me if I can't hold it at that one.
holy cow!
So this is when we dug up ourselves. We call it the master skull to go along with your master key. So here, so you get the images of it. It's very intelligent. The spirit
It's
in.
got the same energy as the Anunnaki knowledge, but it doesn't mean the same thing. It's just that the knowledge. What does that say on the?
This
The
is like
tree?
the Boogosphere chip, but it has like a metal or a calcum chip in it. So advanced technology of some type, and it does have a lot of knowledge. And here's all these long skulls that are venerated on it.
Yes,
Some with wings, some with mermaid tails, some with regular
right.
bodies. It's so heavy. Just get the other.
I don't think that was just with one species. I feel like it was exchanged out to maybe a couple species they're showing me.
Yeah.
So it's not for just one colony.
There's also a type of Nubis like dog race on here.
Yeah.
It's very heavy, and it
Very
looks like
Indiana Jones, like a key almost. That's the way they're saying it.
Ooh, nice. I like that. I found multiple of them. So I'll show you one image of the other master skull. It has also another. Whew, sorry. Let me see if I can find it for you. Yeah, here it is.
This is that in comparison to.
All right. So it's got avian races, these long skulls, like a Nubis or long.
See, the thing is, I
snout.
can't get one energy with this. This is almost confusing because it's not just one type of.
Right. Yeah. There's like in these long skulls. Whew, the one I have is amplifies a lot of superpowers. This one amplifies truth. It told me crazy stuff that I didn't know about myself. Untold truth. They have like omniscience at a solar level. It's pretty cool. So many, like sometimes trillions of spirits involved in a fractal aspect of the making of these. So there's like an octopus race. There's a big guy with an eye.
He has no proof.
It's also pointing out to the big eye guys, pointing out to reptoids,
Mhm.
which some people say it's like it's pointing them out as in they're not obvious, or that it's like maybe opposition or the other side or whatever.
Mass
is not the same.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking at that. I always try to get one origin, and I'm not getting one origin. I feel like there's several, and this could confuse a person of wars.
Yeah, I read that too. It like goes into like there's like a planetary war, and there's just so many planets on it, multiple ringed planets. So this might not just be a Saturn; it might be another whole solar system. Obelisk.
I think if you had that by you, you'd get a lot of different dreams all the time.
Yeah, I get crazy dreams when we get near the crystal skulls near us.
Right, because you see this thing is on the side, but the density could make
Yeah, everything's etched in stone, and it's left for history to identify or to tell a tale.
And it's got a Booga chip on its top too.
That it's gas, and that as gas it can be liquid. Because then it's compressed.
liquid.
So
Yeah, that's what I think.
yeah, he thinks the same.
Ah.
Yeah, just
Very good.
And then they're all pointing their staff into the center where there's this crescent moon-like thing, and a big maybe plasma. I don't know what the heck. Maybe it's a portal over a pyramid, over another kind of planet. Let me know what you feel.
Can you go up to those circle things right there that they're looking at? It's initiation. To me, I get it's a dance and initiation.
Interesting.
Good thinker.
Yeah. It's a celebration, initiation.
And then maybe the Anubis, or I don't know what it is, because sometimes there's another being that looks more like a dog, but he's got scales similar to Anubis. So maybe it's like a weighing too.
Yeah, they're doing some type of celebration.
Yeah, like the success of a creation or something. Maybe because there's a crescent on it. I was thinking that maybe it's like the unity of a bunch of things, maybe having to do with the moon, but maybe not.
I don't know. They're pulling on my ear, so it seems pretty. To me, it's in the ground, low in the ground. And I feel like it's pressurized too. So down deep. I don't feel like there's a lot of light around this.
Oh, so it could be an inner Earth.
Could be. That's the thing, because I feel pulled down to the earth, and then in a darker area, not of light, but they're celebrating. Yeah.
And we found on that dig, we found 8 other crystal skulls. So there's tons of knowledge and info on all this stuff. It's been coming up. Okay.
Did you find any type of tablet with that?
Let me see if I can get one for you. We do find a bunch of tablets. I'll bring those up for you. Let me just get that. And while I'm doing that, I'll show you some other things I got. Here's the UFO and it glowing in UV light.
That makes sense. That's the green that I see off that Anunnaki stone all the time. So.
Sorry, it's taking me a bit of time to get this. Okay. And I'll just show you some other things while I'm waiting for it. Yeah, there's this one that you might have, and I have it with me right now, but it has all these races on it. It's also a UFO.
Yeah. I don't feel intimidated by that one. I don't feel survival. That's what I'm getting with that one.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'll tell you why afterwards, because I didn't want to.
Yeah, that one is about survival. No one, I don't feel like I said, not a push, not an aggression, it's just about surviving. It's not trying to harm anything either.
cool.
I know. I get a
cool.
sadness with that too. Mm. Disappointment. So.
There's also a dragon on the underside of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything about that is surviving and not trying to erupt or cause chaos. Is that bone? Is that made from bone?
We have an artifact that does have bone in the eye socket, and we don't know what type of bone. I think this is made of like limestone and iron oxide and some other things.
Okay.
This one, anything else you wanted to say about it before I tell you what I
No,
turned
go ahead.
into?
Because it went into emotion on that one.
It acts like a DNA arc, like all those different species were attributing multiple races from their worlds in survival, in keeping them alive, and a DNA bank. And it had a huge, like bigger on the inside kind of thing going on with it in the ship it's venerating, and it's dormant also on underground. A lot of Vimana are just in mountains or out of phase or something. They park there and their owner never came back or died or something. So there's all these cool things people can track back.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, like the sadness is, yeah, it's a lot with the process. Yeah. So,
What other projects you got coming up or working on, or things you
well,
are
I'm
doing?
like I said, I'm doing a remote viewing on the rainforest right now because they're showing me these buildings that were deep in the ground, or these pyramids were deep in the ground that not been discovered. So I'm trying to work on those levels to see what they are because it feels like we're so covered up on that process of all of that. That's one of the things I'm working at right now. And then of course, missing persons cases. Those
You're
were
remote
just-
viewing like the Brazilian rainforest and what's
Yes.
underground?
Yes.
Cool.
So they're
I've
showing
heard a few
me
races there.
that they're old type of pyramids, and everything's covered, and they're showing me that. And that,
Nice.
so we're seeing pyramids that no one, everybody thinks they were just mountains, and now they're showing me that. So it's interesting that this is covered, and it's it's an important that this is to be discovered. So the only way to do it is to dig it up and see what shows up where this is at, and to go through it. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
There's also another one. It doesn't feel like it's the size of man. It feels smaller. Colony type of energy.
Where are you home based? What state are you in?
North Dakota.
Oh, cool. I've heard there's like over 500 pyramids in the U.S. alone, and most of them are like just buried up, covered up. Have you found any cool things near where you live?
Yeah, when I had my farm, we found there was giant bones, several graves up here, and then so it was attached to natives, and so it's interesting how they left a lot of artifacts back here, in the land, in the farmland, and everything like that. And then with that area too, they have Bigfoot sightings all around that because the serpent mounds create an energy they all wanted to tap into. So I did a remote viewing for this guy that had the land, and we found stones, and in the stones there were giant teeth in layers. They have more than one layer. So it's interesting how the Vikings and the giants were in this area,
Mm.
and they're trying to tap into an energy source on these serpent mounds.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. When I was in Delaware and Connecticut, I found a few giant mounds. Very interesting how they're all over the U.S. And this history is just covered up and nobody knows about. What have you found from remote viewing or connecting to the giant mounds? The ones I connected to, they did not want anyone to disturb them, and they had a little bit of a cursing kind of energy, and the spirit.
Where would that be? I mean, you'd have to tell me the area because sometimes I don't know things by name. I have to look at the area. Where would that be?
Well, you don't have to tune into which one I'm talking about, but which one with the ones you've already interacted with. What was the kind
Well,
of?
this is
energy
in North
you
Dakota.
had?
It was a Viking, and this is the thing. Even my farm, you would find these big stones where ships were tied onto the decks of them. So I could send you some of the pictures and stuff and go back
Sure.
through it and everything. But there were. I mean, they found tons of swords in this area, tons of big swords. But this is the thing: when he pushed the bones up, the government came in and wanted to shut him down on this project. So I never went after which giants it was. I was just shocked of just the basic details of what was going on there. And so not only that, he's had such a hell of a time with the government. But he had problems. This is the thing with this energy type of source. His wife had issues with borecrocs because you don't understand with these serpent mounds and all of these different species coming around this area, they were having issues. So she actually had to move off the property because it was bad. So, and he refuses to leave. But and on the other side of it, they buried all these natives in a big pit area. So, I mean, it's just a lot of carnage with that whole situation. And then, but with these giants, they had natives tied in the graves from a string because they like to take their slaves with them in the next life, and they thought that was so. And I was out there one night and I could hear the Bigfoot. I never heard it before. So it was interesting. So these stories don't get out. I mean, unless you're talking to these people because they don't want everybody to know. But they did a History Channel did a story on his life, and then of course they debunked it. But it was just because the government told them we don't need any more attention. And if he did any more work, he would be fined. And he wasn't trying to dig these giant bones. It just happened.
Interesting. Yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of spiritual chaos with that. And you mentioned Sasquatch. What do you interesting information have you tuned into when you read into or psychic tracked and interact with Sasquatch? And it's interesting domains that I've
It is.
also tuned
I'll
into.
tell you with them, very high conscience, and it's not something they already know your intentions before you get there. And I feel this very intelligent. I think they're very, very good as a collective, as they work together as one, And so I think like someone that has higher understanding could sit in the woods, in the trees, and just sit there, and that vibration, that tone. But I believe they're dimensional beings also. So I believe they come and go as they please. And they are there to collect. But I also know, because we did put stones out on the land, and they literally pick those up. It was interesting.
Nice.
So I would love to run into one. And people are like, aren't you scared? I'm like, no, because they know your intentions. That's the thing even with nature. They know your intentions of what you're doing.
I bet you could. I usually psychic track a place of power that has to do with them, a mountain or something that they would get tipped off if it got activated or turned on more. And then that's the way I get their attention, and then leave a way to communicate and find my signature frequency. And then I'll see if anything reacts. And also I'll try to, there's these little gates and doorways that they have a signature they leave when they go to this interdimensional place.
Yes.
It's really hard for me to describe because not many people even know the concept.
You know, the thing that's sad about that is I think they're trying to teach man to be, you know, about humanity. And I don't think they want to put harm on us, but there's times they have to. And I think they're very protective over the rainforest and the mountains and all that stuff because it's supposed to be preserved. But I think they're intuitive to really tune into a person's perception of things. But I also think that they're not really out there to harm us at all. And they just want to live and exist when they come in, that they have peace in this process.
Yeah, I've been trying to, like, with the ones I've telepathically communicated to, I've been trying to figure out, okay, what can we do in like a to-do list to make it, because I read they have a clock and of to-do lists that will go off when we reach a point where they're ready to interact with us more, and then there'll be like commerce and trade and interaction at a greater level. And I'm trying to figure out that whole list and what it needs to be done on this planet for that, and then so that it can happen more and more.
So, you know, the stillness again, and then it's relations of creating something. That's why you've seen in the deep mountains, you've had these people that live deep in the mountains that have had these friendships with them. And it's developed through survival and some things. But I think it takes a long time to get there. They have to know your behavior. I think that is the key. So we have to put the effort. You have to put the effort into being in that atmosphere and setting that and staying completely out of fear. Because it's like the paranormal field. It's another area where people just want to provoke the situation, you know, and then they regret provoking the situation. You know, it's so, you know, I feel bad for them because they're hunted so much in such a bad way. Yeah. So the stillness, their time, their agenda is that their stillness process. And I think they like sound too, frequency.
Yeah, and the ways to communicate, and they appreciate people that go into the more multidimensional aspects. For people that haven't heard much of the multidimensional aspects of Sasquatch, some things I've tracked back was these concepts of founders that like create concepts for existence and for planets, etc. And Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, the Alma, these magic monkey races. I've like Monkey King and stuff. I found that we're connected to this lineage in our main residual image, even though we're a super hybrid of lots of races. That in its grand experiment for Earth connects to a founder race that is. I didn't think it was they said they're the founders of magic, and when I think of the founders of magic, that's the monkeys and apes and stuff is not the first thing that comes to mind. It's like, oh, probably like dragons or unicorns, but nope. Apparently, residual image of apes go back way farther than this universe with what they've told me, and that in that they go back to the origin of concepts of make things happen in high levels of magic. And so this goes into dimensional and spatial, making invisible other forms of keeping themselves alive and having interesting enclaves of greater intelligence and connection with the Earth.
Right.
Is what I get into.
Well, I think they're very good at the unit, the collective, and taking care of each other. And I don't know how long they last in age. I don't know how long that is. But I just sense that they're here for humanity and to collect certain things that are of the universe. But it's a hard thing to dodge man's perspective wanting to gloat with them. So, but I think they're smart, and I think they've been around for a long time. So I think you're going to see them in the future in a different communication.
Yeah, I think the
That's my
relevant species and mythic races are going to come out more. I see there's
Yeah.
a thing they're waiting for in our surface species. And last question, then we can plug your stuff and wrap up. What do you think of the Boogosphere? Me and my girlfriend Issa are friends with the science team working with it, the Boogospheres that are being found. I'll bring up a thing for people.
So I see a really bright light reflects through that.
Yeah.
Reflection. I don't know how to explain this to you. And not looking at it in like a collective way of looking down and seeing it move, but I believe it can, in a space, can create a different light of energy in a certain space.
Okay.
And there's a female energy again with it.
And there's like these long skulls on the top, the
Yeah.
spirit body coming off it.
So here we go with sound and frequency again, that you might want to work with some of these on.
Sure.
Yeah, so they
Agreed.
reflect light. You see them in this world as travel, right? But I'm seeing them in a reflection of light that you reflect light through.
Yeah, that one does glow and it emits. So I can imagine they could have some like light reflecting tech to amplify.
Right. Well, I don't think these other ones are, but that one, the way that one's formed, I think it's supposed to eliminate light through it. Yes.
Okay. And here's it.
Yeah, those metal ones I don't feel that, but that one you have feels that way.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it does have light that can go through it, so I'll see if I can play around with that. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so thank you for doing the show with me. I don't want to keep
Yeah,
you
it was
forever.
great.
Thank God you have tons of wisdom, so we could talk for a long time. But maybe in the future we'll do more shows. So let us know in the comments if you like this show. Show us show Jenny some love, and let us know if you want to see more of this. And Jenny, can you tell the audience how people can reach you, social medias, website, session, the type of things?
Mainly everything through Instagram, Facebook, but you can go to my website and it has everything, Patreon, YouTube, and I think I gave you the YouTube, but it's www.jennyssight.net. Double S.
And I think I have one of your images that has some of the, okay.
Yeah, it has the website on there too.
Okay. And any events you have planned up, books?
Walking in Humble Spirit, you can look at that on Amazon. That's the book I wrote. I'm looking at signing on some events. I'm going out to Brad Olson's event in August at his place. I wanted to go out there. I'm going to do that one. And then I'm looking at some others and stuff like that, but I haven't committed. It just being gone 4 days is a lot. So like 1 or 2 days, I'm good because I don't want to backed up on work. So I'm looking at some that are just 2 days instead of 4 because it's hard. You get back and then you got a lot of work to get involved in. So going to these events puts things back. So I'm looking at some that but I haven't committed, put it that way, to it because I want to make sure it's the right process for me. Because I like to go to these things and just soak up information, and that's all I'm there to do is just collective mind and figure everything out and talk to people, you know. So it's a time for all this information to come together. That's what I like about these places when they do have these expos and great information. So it's great.
Lovely.
So they can do
And,
readings. I mean, I teach class, they do readings, all this stuff. They can look at my website, all that stuff. And then one of the biggest things I'm really good at is with I did a really good prediction on the silver and the gold and XRP. And so all that stuff's coming into permission on things and world predictions. You can look on Instagram with that stuff, the drawings I did for that stuff. So that's what I would say to look at and go into that process. Yeah.
lovely. And here's her YouTube, so feel free to look and subscribe to that. Jenny at Jenny Lee channel, and there's some lives and Jenny Lee Seer. If I don't know how many other Jenny Lees there are on YouTube. JennySsite.net. So go and look for her work there. And and what kind of sessions, remote viewing, teaching, consultations, things you offer for people?
So, mediumship classes, intuitive classes, remote viewing, of course, artifacts for, especially to find it, and there's a lot of farms and stuff they're looking for artifacts or land development when they're deciding whether they're going to put a building on something. I want to make sure that nothing's underneath it. I do that too. I mean, it's a big terrain of things and all the information's on there, and then remote viewing for missing persons and cases like that, breaking those cases down in that way.
Nice.
And then just your normal readings too for your life decisions. But I do medical remote viewing, which is that's what part of being the seer, looking through and seeing the condition and seeing what it needs to be.
Diagnostics. Nice.
Yes. So I do that a lot. And that's one of those things when you start remote viewing, then you start seeing stuff inside people's bodies and you're like, okay, what is this? And then you got to create your own language of what that is. And I had to go through that on my own. And animal communication is a big thing with me.
Yeah.
So I do that a lot. So I'm sensitive to that.
Do you teach that for people?
Yes. Yeah, it's probably one of the best things to do because it's just amazing. It is.
Awesome.
It's awesome. It's just a listening to them in a different way than we do everybody else, because their love is unconditional.
And I can confirm, based on having a conversation with you guys, that she is very wise and has a ton of knowledge and information to where she will keep learning and unfolding more and more abilities. So subscribe and look forward for more of her content and more awakening stuff and things that you will grow just by watching her. So subscribe and like her videos and follow her. I'm Sean Bond, founder of Sonic League, sonicleague.com, Sonic League YouTube, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook is Sean Bond. Here's my YouTube for everyone, is Sonic League and at Silver Cord Spiritual Science for people. I got a lot of videos on superhuman abilities, trips, like dormant abilities that are shown, like pyrokinesis, telekinesis, levitation, all these things. With all these abilities with people you can subscribe to. So look to that. And there you can reach me at sonicleague.com for sessions, consultations, clearings, healings, unlocking dormant abilities, depossession from a distance, amplifying abundance, turning on third eye, brighter, HD, and telepathy and many other abilities we can unlock together, seeing into your past lives, all that. And feel free to contact me at sonicleague@gmail.com for either trip inquiry about like the sacred trips we have to Mexico of Indiana Jones style, alien artifacts, blown to place of power, and Unlocking dormant abilities and telekinesis and other stuff. And as well as you can reach me there if you want to become an ET contactee, and we go through remote viewing stuff. And if you want to, again, see more shows with us, because it's been a powerhouse of a show we've done, then destroy that like, comment below, show some love, share this with a bunch of friends, people that want to amplify their third eye. Everyone can would benefit from amplifying their third eye. This show is packed full of upgrades from us, the crowd, so join the family. And we're probably the more you help us, the more we see it get out there, the more we'll want to do these shows. Any other last words of wisdom you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think as the world changes and event passes, I think staying in our stillness and holding the line in calmness. But when people don't understand, and this is where we reach out to them and explain it in a tone of balance at that time. And I that's what we're here to do. There's always a person that's leading the flock, going in a direction, and that first layer of shepherds, I call them, is leading. But we're going to have a ton of people crash and burn, and that's when we have to reach out and explain it, because they're going to want answers, because it's coming. And I think Trump's getting ready to release the exposure of aliens, so that's going to be amazing.
Well, look forward to that. So let's all push for that timeline to get rid of the blocks that are holding us back internally, and then reflect that externally as we become the timeline we want to happen.
Exactly.
And yeah, thank you all for coming. Share this far and wide. Love you all. Have a wonderful day. And let's go and shoot for the stars with our sight. See you guys.